Hello and welcome to the Story Pilgrim. Riyadh, beyond expectations. A city that felt like stepping into another world. At first I felt unmoored, disconnected, out of sync, caught in a culture so different from my own. But as I walked, I began to notice the rhythm, the echoes of the past and present intertwining, and how expectations start to shift when faced with something real. Something lived. If this episode sparks something in you, share it with just one person you think would connect with the journey. Someone who loves exploring new ideas or places. One story shared can lead to so much more. Riyadh presented a story of adapting, of finding connection in unfamiliar places, and of letting the journey take the lead. Come with me now as we explore the city, not just its streets, but the places between expectation and discovery. This is the Story Pilgrim.
There are places in the world that you dream about visiting, and then there are places that you've never imagined that you would ever step foot in. For me, Saudi Arabia falls into the latter. I've been fortunate enough to travel a heck of a lot in my life. But this trip feels a little bit different. I'm in Riyadh. It is unlike anywhere I've ever been before. The contrast in the culture, the warmth of the people, how it's challenged my previous thoughts and expectations have already left quite an indelible mark on me. I'm going to discover the city and reflect not just on the stuff that I see, but on how this journey has reshaped what I thought I knew about the world, and hopefully maybe a little bit more about myself.
Some facts about Riyadh. It is the capital city of Saudi Arabia. It has about 7.5 million population. That was of 2022. But it's estimated that 40% of that population is of expats, non-Saudi residents. Indians and Pakistanis make up the two biggest groups of non-Saudis living in Riyadh. Has the oldest university in Saudi Arabia, which was founded in 1957. Not that old, really, is it? I mean, the country isn't that old, really. Riyadh University has over 4,000 mosques in the city. And like I said, it does date back centuries. It didn't become the capital of the country until 1823. It was originally called Hajr, Hajr, which was the province of Al-Yama. And Saudi Arabia now, I think, is still the country which is the largest oil exporter in the world. It's pretty much held that title for probably about the last 50 years or so.
It is fascinating in that I've come into, I think you pronounce it Alea Mall, which is across the road from the Kingdom Centre. And it's basically material and dresses. And you see, I would say 99.9% of the women walking around are wearing their traditional dress, the abaya, all black, covering basically head to toe. But you come in a place like this and you just see a sea of colour and sparkles, different types of material. And it makes you wonder, like, when are they wearing this? Is this to, when they're out, they have to dress modestly, and then maybe when they go to parties or family functions, then this is what they wear, and it's really a huge contrast. It's really interesting. And I've come across the street into another mall from the one with all the fabric in, and this is just men just every story is for men, and it's really interesting. In the windows, some of the mannequins are rather rotund, rather large, which is really interesting, cool to see. But yeah, just every single story in here is for men.
A his and a her mall. Just to witness the contrast between the two was fascinating, and both were not that busy. Maybe it was just the time of day. One thing that I did hear regularly during the day whilst in Riyadh was this.
I am feeling the most isolated that I have felt in a very long time. Not able to get on to any Wi-Fi, so I've kind of come out using the Wi-Fi of the hotel, but now I'm out in the mall. There's no Wi-Fi, there's no nothing, so I'm like trying to figure out, well, how do I get back? That'd be interesting. Be okay, I'll figure it out. But yeah, it's interesting to have this feeling again after having travelled so much and thinking everything's alright. I'm at the National Museum of Saudi Arabia. It's an iconic institution, actually, because it stands as a testament to the country's rich history, its legacy, and there's quite a big what am I trying to say, like centre here. It's more of a cultural complex. There's a really lovely gardens that I'm in at the moment. It's established in 1999. It's quite modern, actually. It's got a mixture of the modern architecture, but using the old contemporary and design elements. There's ancient artifacts in there. Obviously, it's a museum, but they're pretty cool with like having the multimedia stuff as well. So it's quite modern. And then next to it is the Al-Murabba Palace, which is King Abdullah's residence, which that has been converted to a museum as well, which is really cool. That Murabi translates to square, basically reflecting the architectural design of the palace there. It's not big, it's only 2 stories, but it was built in 1936 and 1937 by King Abdullahi. So that's where I am at the moment. I'm at it's not disappointing fort. It's a really cool fort, Masmak Fort, but the disappointment is that it is under restoration and rehabilitation at the moment. So it's all completely covered with scaffolding, and you can't basically see it. You can see the middle of it, and then there's a massive flag outside of it. But this was built in 1865. It's quite central to Saudi's history, basically symbolising the birth of the kingdom, and serves as like a constant reminder to the country's roots. It was the recapture of Riyadh by Abu Aziz Ibn Saud. That's the founder of Saudi Arabia, in 1902, which basically was the beginning of the reunification campaign that eventually led to the establishment of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in 1932. It's basically made out of clay, mud brick, traditional Arabian architecture
thick walls. It's got 4 watchtowers. It's got a large gate. There's a palm tree. It's made out of palm tree wood. It's really cool. So, come down and see it, but you can't really see it. And then we've got the mosque is next to us. The Abdullah Mosque, the Imam Turki bin Abdullah Mosque. It's a prominent historic site in Riyadh, named after Turki bin Abdullah bin Muhammad, the founder of the second Saudi state. It holds a significant part in the heart of Riyadh's cultural life. It's pretty cool architecture. As I'm wandering, starting to think of other things, and me coming here, I kind of felt a little bit weird and scared. I already talked about that. I felt quite uncomfortable. So I was sort of thinking about expectations, and like my expectations, I kind of like inherit them. As I'm stood here by next to the fort, kind of thinking the fort's a cornerstone of Riyadh's story, its history. Reminds me of expectations that I've had handed to me from like my parents, teachers, society, culture, and those expectations that I have shaped the world that I see. But what happens when my lived experiences challenge my experience of those expectations? Then I've got to adapt. Just as this city has adapted from being like a desert stronghold to a modern capital. Maybe it's not about breaking those foundations, but learning to build on top of them. Just reimagining what we've inherited while staying true to the story that I'm trying to tell. Does that make sense? I kind of wandered off all over the place there. Anyway, all right.
Expectation. A belief that something will happen because it is likely. A hope that something good will happen. As I get older, I am trying more and more to lean into the positive side of expectations. Saudi Arabia is changing. Is it because they want to, or they are expected to?
As I begin walking around Riyadh, this is a city which is just brimming with stories of transformation. I'm really starting to question how much of life is shaped by what we expect versus how we adapt to the reality that actually unfolds, because in my experience it's always so different. Expectations, they set the course for me, whether they are the personal expectations, the cultural expectations. I'm struck a lot by that being here in Saudi Arabia. Societal adaptation, that determines how I navigate the unexpected twists, which I seem to have quite a lot in my life, and I'm sure you probably can agree as well. As I'm walking around Riyadh today, I want to explore that tension,
between expectation and reality, and that adaptation, and hopefully try and draw a parallel between what Riyadh is going through, what Saudi Arabia is going through. Over the last 5 years, a lot has changed for this country. It's going to be interesting to see where the path leads. There's an awful lot of stray cats in Riyadh. A lot of cats, very straggly cats. In the Al-Majliya Souk, also known as the Souk Al-Zal market, it's one of the oldest and traditional markets in Riyadh. It's got really narrow alleyways. It is kind of like you're transported back in time. A lot of these are selling the oud, the incense. It kind of looks like tree bark. There's daggers for sale. There's a lot of the traditional wear, just clothes and they look like body jackets, but there's also spices. It's just a really cool shopping experience, really, and it's quite quiet. I mean, we are out on a Sunday. I'm out a little bit early. I don't think anything opens up till later on in the day. It's 12 o'clock now. It's just gone 12 o'clock. So there was, I would say, probably actually not that many. 25% of stores are open, but there's really such colourful, lots of gold. The clothes are very simple, but just quite striking in their design. A lot of wool, fur. Yeah, it's really cool. In an area where it's just completely derelict, old houses, old shops, completely empty. Not just one or two, like a whole area. And it's as if it's getting ready to be completely demolished, but it's all in the old style. It's all clay and mud held together with timbers, but all of it is absolutely just completely empty. And the contrast of going from the city into literally nothing, it's a whole couple of blocks. Yeah, it looks like they're probably just going to absolutely floor it all and put in some modern stuff, but then again, there's no construction going on. It's really cool.
The abandonment in that area was striking. Jumped me out of the day, an unexpected moment that made me think, made me sit up, metaphorically. The day in Riyadh was slowly waking up.
I am at Salam Park, which is a 99 hectare space park built in 2003. It's really sweet. It's you've got a big lake in there. You can ride the swans. It's really nice. Most places here don't open till 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, so coming out early is a little bit on the wrong side. I'm outside the Al-Murabba Palace, which once stood as a symbol of innovation, I should say, not renovation. A reminder, to me, it's like a reminder of what adaptation looks like. It's modern for its time, but it's still deeply rooted in its tradition. And it's really interesting, Riyadh, as I'm walking around and thinking about expectations that we place on ourselves, to always be moving forward, to be better, to be faster, to become more accomplished. But is the secret in all of that just balancing it all? Knowing what we have to carry forward and knowing what we're leaving behind. Like this palace, we can be like a symbol of who we are, who we were, and what we're becoming. I really feel like adapting, it's not about abandoning the old, it's just weaving all the new stuff into that old stuff. Yeah, it's really, really very intriguing city, and I think I'm at it at a very interesting time. As I've been walking through Riyadh, this really has been a city of contrasts. It's seems to be constantly balancing its rich past with quite an interesting, bold future. It kind of mirrors my life, my stories that I have, where expectations shaped my plans, but adaptation to those expectations writes the real story, the real narrative. From the foundations of the fort, Masmak Fort, to the curated histories of the National Museum and the palace, the Al-Murabba Palace, Riyadh has kind of taught me that adaptation isn't about abandoning expectations, it's just about transforming them. This has been like my moment here in Riyadh, but the reflections, the experiences of this all will continue with me as I move forward. Yeah, I'm really intrigued. It will be a place that, like, I never thought I would ever come to Saudi Arabia. There's Jeddah as well. I hope I get to come back, because I think we're going to see a lot of changes with Saudi Arabia over the next decades. Really, really intriguing.
Expectations. They can be like a compass, guiding us toward what we think we want or where we believe we're headed. But they can also be limiting. A framework we build that doesn't always fit the reality of the world around us. And that's where adaptation comes in. Adapting isn't just about the survival or making do, it's about growth. It's about realizing that the unexpected isn't a failure of the plan, but an invitation to see things differently, to find meaning in places you didn't expect. It's in those moments, when the script flips, when the road bends, that life becomes vivid, alive, real. Walking through Riyadh, I thought a lot about how expectations are shaped by culture, by history, by others, and by ourselves. And I realised that adaptation doesn't mean letting go of hope or vision. It means being brave enough to let go of control, to step into the unknown with curiosity instead of fear. The future is like an untold story, unwritten, uncertain, but full of potential. The challenge is to approach it not with the rigid expectations, but with open arms. To be willing to adapt, to shift, to evolve, and to let the journey take the lead. Because often, what we find is better than what we planned. So, here's to the road ahead, wherever it may take us. May we greet it with not just expectations, but with the courage to adapt and the willingness to embrace its surprises. The Story Pilgrim was written, walked, talked, recorded and edited by me, Darren Hill. Anya Backer gifted us the incredible music on Sean the Harp. Take a look at our website, thestorypilgrim.com. We've got a blog, Give it a read. Please and thank you.
Until the next time, keep listening and buen camino.